Hello everyone. Sorry I can't be there today to give you this presentation in person, but I'm glad to be able to deliver it to you just the same. I'm V. Lazaro Zamora. I'm with the Communications Division where I teach English 101 and 102. And this is my PowerPoint flipped lessons and overview of using TED-Ed in the classroom. Now I'd like to start with a definition. Flipped learning is a pedagogical approach in which direct instruction moves from the group learning space to the individual learning space, and the resulting group space is transformed into a dynamic, interactive learning environment where the educator guides students as they apply concepts and engage creatively in the subject matter. And that's from flippedclassroom.org, as you can see. Before I begin, just a couple of caveats. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to convince you to throw out your lesson plans and do all of your work in this format. You're used to working with pen, paper, chalkboard. Fine. This is just an alternative that has worked for me. I wanted to have more time in the classroom for group work and in-class writing and for fielding questions about the writing strategies, and this gave me that. At FTLA, I observed that it was mostly instructors from STEM fields that found this useful and were excited about doing it, but I wanted to have more time with my students and do more hand-on work with them in the classroom with their writing. So I had to develop a way to make this work, and you might have to as well. A big bonus for me is that I'm not having to lecture quite as much, and that's useful considering I've been teaching Saturday morning classes that go on for about 3 hours. So I've substantially cut down on hearing my own voice and saying this same thing every semester. All right. Let's take a look here real quick. This is Bloom's taxonomy, and I don't want to go through all of this. There's no need to relive the anxiety of our pedagogical training, but I wanted to reassure you of the legitimacy of the flipped classroom. So this is from Vanderbilt University Center for Teaching, and it says that in terms of Bloom's revised taxonomy, students are doing the lower levels of cognitive work outside of class and focusing on the higher forms of cognitive work in class, where they have the support of their peers and instructor. This model contrasts from the traditional model in which first exposure occurs via lecture in class, with students assimilating knowledge through homework. In my experience, a lot of my own hesitancy to adopt this method, at least for a trial period, was assuaged after I tried it and saw that there were a lot more students willing to watch a video and come in ready to have a discussion. So there are a lot of different approaches to the flipped lesson. Weekly modules on etudes for those of you using it can be used to assign lectures, readings, videos, online discussions. The emphasis, as I had mentioned, is to dedicate more time in class to the higher forms of cognitive work, application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation. So keep in mind that this is not just about getting students to watch videos or do more homework or even giving you more free time necessarily. This has to be well structured and there is scaffolding involved. And so you'll have to develop plans for an active classroom, but ultimately that's what I wanted. So hopefully it'll work for you as well. So there are different approaches, and there are also four aspects to keep in mind. And again, I'll keep these brief. Number one is purpose. This is important because it focuses the design of the flipped lesson you're going to present. Also, you must, and I can't stress it enough, you must make doing the work on TED-Ed and or journaling or not or taking notes, however you decide to do it, it has to count for points in your grading scale. Students have to have a sense of urgency about doing the work that they're assigned online. The other thing is prior to class. You have to have a goal in mind in order to develop this lesson. So you have to know what material they're going to work with really well and how you're going to apply it to what's going to happen in class, which is the next thing. I think this was the most challenging aspect for me. As I mentioned before, the STEM people seem to have all of these applications they instantly knew that they could use to make this work for them in their classrooms. I had to think long and deep, and I came up with a system that worked for me, and I think for my students as well. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of time to go through everything, but suffice it to say, I have a lot more of what I consider active learning going on in my classroom now as a result of using this. Um, Closing, I had better student essays to read throughout the semester. Definitely a bonus. And I had more time for one-on-one work, which is what I think helped develop those essays and also helped with bringing the class together and helped some students develop social capital as well. Okay, so here's what I used to flip my lessons. There are a lot of moving parts to this, and it helps if you know your way around a couple of different software programs. I have specific needs, as I'm sure most of you do, for teaching the writing strategies that I work with. So I needed to create PowerPoints, lots of PowerPoints. PowerPoint and Google Slides are probably the most common. There are some online services such as Prezi and Powtoon, but my observation was that they were a little more intricate and required more time for familiarization. And they were a lot more flashy. They were really pretty. But for the time frame that I was working in, it just wasn't possible to work with those programs. It also helps if you know your way around these websites. You'll need to have accounts for all of them, and they work together in order to make the lesson possible. You will have to use all of them. Good news is they're all free. You'll have to create a presentation with your presentation software and use Screencast-O-Matic to capture your voice as you go over the lesson. Okay, and here's what Screencast-O-Matic looks like. It's make it easy. You just click and you start recording. It's pretty nice that way. YouTube, I think, I would hope everybody's pretty familiar with, but maybe uploading may be a little bit more of a challenge for you. And the website is pretty intuitive when it comes to uploading. There's some tricks to it, but it's relatively intuitive for the most part. The other website that maybe you may not be familiar with, you may be familiar with TED Talks, but this is TED-Ed, and that's ed.ted.com. And here's what it looks like. All right, so now this is my portal, and this is where you'll see my lessons here. I have these posted. I don't use eTudes. I have these posted to my own class website, and my students can access these. And so, for example, I will have, let's take a look at this. This is the basic features of a concept essay, just as an example, what it looks like. Now this is a PowerPoint that I created. I have a voiceover that I used, Screencast-O-Matic. They'll watch the video, they'll go into here, click one of these, and there'll be some questions for them that will ask them about what they watched on the video. There's also Dig Deeper, which is more of a small essay question I'll have them do. And then this is discussion, which is great. You can have them do online discussions. I have a question up that they can start talking, and you'll see them go back and forth and have these really cool discussions that they'll bring to class. Okay, so yes, there's some issues, and I've had some setbacks. Not all students are prepared to spend time online for a class. That's a reality. Some have computer literacy issues. Some have access issues. I think that these are realities that we just have to deal with regardless of what medium we're using to teach. Students, for example, don't always like to read. They don't always have their books until the financial aid checks arrive. You know, those are just things that we have to deal with no matter what. Also, it was a real investment in time. PowerPoint for me wasn't a problem. I have a lot of experience from my old corporate days, and I've uploaded videos to YouTube in the past, but it still took a lot of time for me to prepare my plans. As intuitive as some of the other programs and websites are, I still needed to learn how to navigate them. Screencast-O-Matic is an example. I had to learn how to use it. Also, technology is not always perfect. Anyone who's ever had a computer crash on them or a website go down or lost a bunch of data before saving it knows that stuff happens when you use technology. Sometimes an instructor will be hesitant to use the method because of the time and their own computer illiteracy, and sometimes just because it conflicts with their views about the use of technology in the classroom. Also, another issue is just not doing it right. I've had a student tell me, you know, I like how you flip the classroom. My last teacher who did it would have us watch videos, and then we'd have to still do the homework, and then they would lecture in class, and it was all boring. And okay, well, you know, that person was doing it wrong, quite frankly. You know, not at our school, of course, somewhere else. but that person was doing it wrong. If you're assigning videos and PowerPoints and readings and you're not doing at least some of the work you've assigned or you would have assigned as homework in class, then you might want to re-examine your quote-unquote flipped classroom because you're not doing something right. And of course, there's always the student who just won't prepare no matter what. I'm still working on that, trying to think of what we can do about that. I think we all are. Uh, but yeah, not much we can do. So, but these things will come up. I like to really focus on the positive outcomes. Students come in more prepared than in the past. I should note that when I'm doing the in-class work, not being prepared means that the student has to use the time to catch up with the reading or the video. And I'm prepared for that because the TED-Ed website lets me know who's done the work. It gives me reports. So I can prepare. I could spend more time addressing their inadequacies in class. I get more face-to-face time with them. I get to know them a lot more personally, and I get to know what their weaknesses are in terms of their writing, so I can help them address those issues. Students also spend considerably more time working on their assignments, and I could help them develop their ideas in class. So I get much better homework. I get much better essays, much better work all around. I'm also addressing different rates at which students learn. It just kind of happened. Many of the students have reported that they are content with the speed at which the class is taught. The truth is, I haven't changed my schedule very much. It's just that they are working through the material at their own pace, and I'm just there to help them. So it's just inherent, I think, in using this method. I'm freed up from having the lecture for such long periods of time, which can be really exhausting, and I can instead focus on facilitating lessons, which to me is a big bonus. Also, on my syllabus, the phrase students are responsible for their learning, it appears, and now it has some really concrete meaning. They have to do the work in order to succeed. There's no faking it. They've either done the assignment and are ready to move on with the lesson, or they have to spend time owning up to their responsibilities in class. And finally, the more I flipped, the easier it was to do. I started off with a couple of lessons that I prepared before the spring semester began and worked out some kinks. And by the third week of class, I had all of the material they needed posted to TED-Ed to cover the rest of the semester. It was really nice to just have all of that ready to go. And again, I am prepared for this semester and next semester. It's there, it's not going away, and I could keep using it if I decide to. Um, Okay, so let me flip this presentation around a little bit. And these are two really great videos you can watch. They're very short. They're only about 7 minutes each. You could drop the names in the search engine on the YouTube website, and they will come up. So this PBS video, what a flipped classroom looks like. The PBS video shows Clintondale High School outside of Detroit. It's a school that was ranking in the lowest fifth percentile in their state and performance. They began using the flipped classroom model throughout their curriculum, and now their students are achieving great success in their testing and grades. And the school is a model of success for using the flipped classroom. It's really a remarkable video. Andrew Wolf, who teaches nursing, he made a great video that goes into a quick but thorough explanation of the flipped classroom model. And he discusses Bloom's taxonomy and even troubles it, which I really like. He also has a couple of other brief videos that show how he applies how he applies the model in his classroom. Those are really nice to watch as well. So if you go home and you watch these and you see me on campus sometime this semester, stop me and we can have a chat. Okay, that's it for my presentation. Oh yeah, one more thing.